that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello, everybody. I don't have a lot of spoilers. In fact, I don't have any. The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. It's another phenomenal book. I say that objectively. I personally did not enjoy this. I'm just being frank about that. I definitely preferred A Farewell to Arms, personally. That being said, I do recognize what this book is doing. I recognize the greatness within. It just did not personally hit me like A Farewell to Arms did, which may be a hot take. I know a lot of people praise this book, and rightly so. I'm not saying here that this book is bad by any means. Objectively, it is a good book, but personally, and this is what this account is always about, is being honest, it just didn't hit. And I'm not saying there's anything particularly wrong with this book even. It just personally didn't land with me. I definitely feel like for people on the internet, when they review books especially, they tend to go, well, I didn't like it, so it's bad. And I don't think that's the case. I think this is a phenomenal book. It just wasn't for me. Again, the writing style is exactly the same as all the other Hemingway books. Old Man in the Sea, Farewell to Arms, very Cormac McCarthy-esque, or I should say McCarthy writes like Hemingway in a sense. Not completely, but they don't really use like he said, she said. They do, but you get a lot of like just sentences that kind of go on and on. It's very similar in that respect. But, and the thing I always love, whether it be this book or Farewell to Arms or anything else with Hemingway, is, people always talk about, or I hear a lot of people go, I don't really like purple prose. I don't like it to be super flowery like it is in like Jenny Ward's books or Malazan or this or that. They don't like the big flowery language or Name of the Wind. But this is expertly crafted writing while being simple, and there's a difference. There are simple, short sentences sometimes, and then sometimes there's a little eloquence within a sentence. But everything is brisk, is to the point, is clear, concise, and easy to follow. Another thing I love about this book is how this was in the 20s this came out? And sure, there's certain things that are definitely of the time. But this feels so contemporary to today, or just like generally like just, it feels like timeless, like a story you could read today. Now, none of the characters in this book are particularly likable. The main character, Jake, he fought in World War I. And in the war, an explosion went off, and he lost his dingle-dong. He has no pee-pee. He cannot perform any sexual act any longer. He has his friends who also fought in the war. And this girl, we have Mike, we have Cohen, and we have Brett, who's this female lady who begins married but is getting divorced, and she plays around with a lot of people. But none of these people are good people. They're not horrible people, but they're not good people. They are flawed people trying to make sense of life and meaning after the events of World War I. I mean, how do you do that? These are people who have been broken, who have been hurt, who have no therapy or anything to really help them through this. So they drink and they bask in hedonist pleasures to try to help them get through life. And while my generation and a generation below me has not really had to do any war, I think one thing we love to do, people my age anyway, and people younger, is we love to sensationalize a lot of stuff on the news. Some of that stuff is very valid. Some of that stuff is we need to get angry about something because we have no war to fight in. So this makes us feel important. This makes us feel worthy of existence. And the sad reality is you don't matter. The vast majority of us, I mean, we all matter. But in terms of the world and changing things, we don't. You know, there's a handful of people we read about in history, and there's loads more that actually helped make that history become truth. But there's a reason we only remember specific key people and not the whole. Martin Luther King wasn't the only one doing stuff. Abraham Lincoln was the only one doing stuff. But when we tend to think about history, we think of those individuals and not anybody else, unless we're doing deep dive history diving into it to see other people's contributions. But if you do a surface level summary, it's going to be, you know, and I say all this because I feel like this book is rather relevant to today, because we don't have a war yet, at least at the time that I'm recording this. And so we are trapped with ourselves. And many of us can't handle that. So what do we switch to? We switch to video games. We switch to the internet, the algorithm, the doom scroll, the TV shows, the movies, and still partying and drinking, or even something as simple as reading books. We all do things to escape our thoughts. Most of us do not allow ourselves to sit in silence. None of us just go, or plenty do, but oftentimes we don't go out to like a hiking trail, go to as far as we can in, and just kind of ponder the meaning of existence. Because we don't want to think about it. I mean, the older you get, the more you think about it. I'm 25 now. 5 years, I'll be 30. Another 10, I'll be 40. And on it goes. And one day I'll die. Maybe there'll be a 70. Maybe there'll be a 90. Maybe it'll be next year because I get cancer or something. Maybe I'll get hit by a car and die. We have no way of knowing when our last moments will be, but the older you get, the more you start to think about it. But we don't want to think about it. So we escape to other things. Now, these men, they survived World War I. They've escaped that. They lived to tell the tale, but they don't know what to do with themselves now. They have all this baggage that they can't release because there's no therapy or means to support them, because PTSD didn't exist back then. Hell, shell-shocked was barely even a thing. I mean, think about this. We had, in Lord of the Rings and Return of the King, we had J.R.R. Tolkien be one of the first people to really, with nuance and grace, describe the feeling of returning home and not being able to be content because it's broken, it's ruined, because you're just not you anymore. It can never... You may have left the war, but the war isn't left you. And, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien wouldn't write Lord of the Rings for another, 30 years? It came out in the 60s, right? This was the 20s? So what are they to do? They drink, they party, they make wrong decisions, and we have ourselves a book. You know, and they travel to different places. So if you like seeing a lot of these locations they describe in this book, I would love to go visit. I'm never going to. I don't have the money for it. I'm an aspiring actor that's been in nothing and probably will be in nothing. I mean, I'll keep pursuing it because I love it. But, you know, what are the chances, right? It'd be really funny if, mark my words, and I'm like some big guy in the future and people go watch this like, oh, look at that guy. He said he wasn't going to be big and he was. But it's not, I don't know. It's probably not going to happen. But I'll pursue it regardless. But, so they escape through that, and we escape through the internet and other means. And some of us still go through the alcohol bit. But, you know, then also just Jake himself and the frustrations of, he's what, around my age? Maybe a little bit younger, actually? God, I'm getting old. And he, you know, there's the whole complicated thing with Brett. Brett's kind of playing around with everyone. She's a little bit annoying. But Jake cannot provide, as a man, the thing to copulate that relationship, to he has no schlong no more. Is he a man? Is that what makes you man? No, right? But how do you live that way? I mean, I'm 25 years old, and I'll be clear on this front. I haven't done it. I haven't done it. I never have. The opportunity just never presented itself. I've never put myself in those situations. I've never done it. Am I not a man? I mean, regardless of that fact, I'm only very soon getting my own apartment for the first time ever, 25 years old. I feel utterly inadequate to be an adult. I don't feel like an adult. I feel like a kid trapped in an aging body. I don't feel like I've done any development toward becoming a proper adult. Everything that my brain has been catering to, like philosophy or literature or acting, is all stuff that doesn't really help you be a proper adult. You know? So it's like, my grandfather, he can do carpeting, he can fix things, he all make things, cook things, do all the things. And my grandma's super good with, like, numbers and organization and all this stuff. But I never excelled in those things. I'm basically useless. Um so it's like, even if I did do it, that wouldn't make me a man, really. Just would make me a kid who lost my V card. But he seemingly has before, and now that he doesn't have it, he doesn't know how. What does that mean? And in the absence of the ability to be in a romantic relationship, what does that leave you with in the end? With just a female male relationship as a friendship, and that's also kind of interesting. But all these people are kind of detestable and annoying and frustrating. They're not bad people. They're just really frustrating to read about, but it makes sense given the circumstances. Um, but we mostly follow them. But and while I'm praising this book a lot, because there's a lot to praise here, it's phenomenal. It is a masterpiece, even though I didn't personally enjoy it. But a lot of it is just kind of people walking around and talking, and I suppose that was the same thing with A Farewell to Arms. But there was this sort of melancholy that followed throughout the whole thing, and there is a similar thing here of loneliness and a feeling of being lost in this ever-changing world. Um, but I don't know, there was a stronger pathos for me in A Farewell to Arms than there was in this story. Um, but there is my favorite part of the book was probably once they make it to the bullfighting and we have everything going on there. And I thought some of the writing in those particular sections were super strong and super vivid. I have trouble picturing things in my mind, but that certain section was crystal clear. Um, and you know, like I said, I get the gist of what's going on here and what's trying to be said, and I appreciate that. Hemingway has this amazing way of being this man's man, who's super, you know, but his writing will be simple and efficient and to the point, but there'll also be this sentimentality and vulnerability throughout all of his works that just it's wonderful how he manages that. Even if he was a sexist in real life, um, he's dead. It don't matter. But there was so much brilliance in this book. It's just the day to day reading of it for me, I didn't really enjoy myself. It just kind of felt like homework. Like, oh, this is interesting for a video to talk about, but I wasn't like particularly having fun. I don't know if that makes sense. Whereas A Farewell to Arms, I was actually fairly invested the whole way through. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it is about this. I think it was his first novel he wrote, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But I understand why it has the raving that it does, and it deserves it. For me, though, personally, it just didn't hit as hard. And I was going to talk about spoilers and stuff, but honestly, it is a book that you should read. If you weren't forced to read it in high school, I wasn't, but it's a good book. And, maybe you'll be like me, not really enjoy it, but appreciate it. Maybe you'll be completely bored by it. Though I think the only people that are bored by it probably just don't like Hemingway completely. Like, I mean, I was bored by it, so I'm saying, like, I didn't fully enjoy it. But like, if you don't enjoy anything about it or can't even appreciate it, then you probably just don't like Hemingway, and you probably wouldn't enjoy any of his other books, to be honest. Um, but if you have enjoyed a Hemingway book before, or if that sounds appealing to you, there's a lot to love there, for sure. And I do think it's rather relevant today with people and escaping their problems and escaping through vices or the internet or through technology or habit. This was particularly just, like drinking and having fun and just not allowing yourself to process life after war, life without being able to be romantic with someone. And what does that look like? Are you still a man? Are you still a person worthy of love and respect? And when you can't be what you perceive to be a proper man, it's rough, and there's a lot to love here. Um, but like I said, the page to page, the day to day, was not fun. But looking back on it and talking about it, there's a lot to love. So ultimately, make up your mind on it yourself. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. But anyway, that is The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. We have at the end of the month, or no, next month when you're watching this, we will have all of the Long Quarter Quartet by Daniel Abraham fantasy series. And then the following month, we will have All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, the second book I'll be reviewing since I reviewed Damien way back when. And, well, mostly because I want an excuse to play the games again, but I have this horrible habit of doing things in chronological order. 2 Dead Space novels called Dead Space Martyr and Catalyst. Hopefully you'll come along for that. Until next time, guys, I believe, I forget, how's it go? I'm going to leave a link. No, I'm going to put this at the end of the video. I'm going to put a video, and it's probably going to get my video taken down, but from Midnight in Paris, because I love that movie, as it has Fitzgerald and Hemingway and all these characters meeting up with Owen Wilson, because he's an aspiring author. And there's a really wonderful moment with Hemingway. I'll leave you with this, actually, because I think it's funny. The main character asks Hemingway, "Can you read my novel? It's like 400 pages, and I just want an opinion." And Hemingway goes, "My opinion is I hate it." And he goes, "But you haven't even read it." And he goes, "Well, if it's bad, I'll hate it because I hate bad writing. If it's good, I'll hate it because I'm envious. And if it's good, I'll be jealous." I'm already butchering it. He says, "I'll be jealous of it and hate it all the more," basically. Paraphrasing. Oh man, I fricked this up. I got a headache. I'm sorry. Anyway, despite not loving this book, I love Hemingway, and I will be reading the rest of his, his bibliography at a later date. But until then, stay safe, and if you ever fight a bull, watch your step. Till next time.